another episode of the End Paradigm Shifting. So, if you don't already know what this show is about, what I'm about, then I can break it down to you with just one word: better. That's the magic word. I'm all about being better in life, at life, better physically, better mentally, better emotionally, better professionally, better socially, better to myself and better to the people who are in my life, and better to those who allow me to be in their lives. Now, I'm pretty sure that everyone has the same goal, whether they are aware of it or not. Very few of us would turn down the chance of being better in any area of our lives. We do, however, have a tendency to stand in our own way by allowing doubt, past failures, or potential failures to keep us from really trying to be better. Part of the deal of getting to live this thing called life is that we are all guaranteed to receive a steady diet of challenges like heartaches, losses, disappointments, setbacks, ignorant ass people, and failure. It doesn't matter who you are, we all have to face life's challenges on a regular basis. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That is why it's extremely important to become mentally and emotionally stronger. Being unstoppable doesn't mean that you don't get knocked down. It means that you never stop getting back up. Success isn't about getting it right the first time. Success is about getting it right whenever you can. As I enjoy this blessing of getting older, I realize more and more how important it is to be a master of mind, body, and spirit. Mastery of self requires mastery of your thoughts and emotions. For this episode of Paradigm Shifting, we're going to talk about our mental health. Our minds are at the center of everything we do, how we feel about things we do, and how we respond to what happens to us. Personally, I found that the better I am with managing my thoughts, the less difficult life is. Notice that I didn't use the word easier, just less difficult. Mental health is the key to a happy and fruitful life, and that means maintaining good mental health is a very important thing to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some of my mental health story with you because it may resonate with you. Or at the very least, you know that I'm drawing from personal experience and just not talking out my butt. So I'm not going to go into deep detail. Those details are reserved for my potential autobiography if I ever decide to write one. So, 2 times in my life, I was under the care of a therapist due to depression. 2 times in my life, I was on antidepressants, and in both those cases, I was on them for about 2 years. Leading up to the last time that I was prescribed meds for depression, I was in such a bad state that I had suicidal ideations. Now, those ideations began as soon as I got into the car and started my commute to and from work, 5 days a week for about 3 months. I never came close to doing anything, but the thoughts were there in the form of, I wonder if. Basically, I was scouting out the perfect solid thing that I could hit at the right speed to where I wouldn't feel anything and that I wouldn't hurt anyone else. If you're curious, I was able to find a few decent candidates, but thank God that I wasn't truly interested in putting my loved ones through something like that or destroying my car because the car was innocent. Yeah, I'm a car guy, right? In the process of getting a handle on my depression, I realized that I had been living with depression and anxiety for most of my life, and that it had held me back from reaching my highest potential in just about every aspect of my life. I was my own worst enemy. When something bad happened in my life, I allowed the thoughts to linger way longer than necessary. I allowed doubt to keep me from trying. I allowed the possibility of failure and embarrassment to keep me from trying. I didn't believe that I could really be successful. I missed out on a lot of opportunities to have fun, be great, and be successful because I stood in the way of me. So those are the bullet points of my mental health history. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me so that I can encourage you to find a great therapist. I mean, we can talk about things, but more than likely I will be encouraging you to take the critical step. So, it has been more than a decade since the last episode of my depression. I've been good, and it's not because my life hasn't had its challenges. To be honest, the past 10 years of my life have been interesting in ways that I could never imagine. There's been no shortage of disappointments that I've had to endure, both personally and professionally. For starters, I was pushed out of a career that I really enjoyed. Then I lost a temp to perm job that I was really beginning to feel comfortable at days before I was to be hired on full time because the new hiring manager wanted his friends from his old job to be hired instead. So he made space for them by getting rid of me as well as the only other black guy on his staff. I struggled to get my dream business going, only to watch it disintegrate before the momentum was about to really pick up. I also watched close relationships with really good friends fade away, and I've struggled to make new connections with new people. Now, the old me wouldn't have done so well. The current me navigates and negotiates these interesting turn of events without much emotional energy being spent. Now these challenges feel much more like a game to me. If you're wondering how a person who has experienced those kinds of major hits in a relatively short period of time, has a history of anxiety and depression while living in this magical year of 2020, is not depressed or crippled by anxiety or suicidal ideations, well, I share with you my 5 tenets for staying balanced, and hopefully you will like them enough to work them into your way of processing life. So the first tenet is faith. Okay? Upon reflection of my life's experiences, I've realized 2 things. Thing 1, every up is followed by a down, and every down is followed by an up. So when life is down, I know that eventually things will get better, so I just need to keep pushing until better happens. When things are going great, I make a conscious effort to be present and take in those wonderful moments so that I can remember them when life gets interesting or challenging again. Those memories have gotten me through some very tough moments. Okay, so thing 2, God has never let me down and has always gotten me through tough situations and challenging periods of my life, which has helped me to become on the other side to be a much better person. There are lessons to be learned, and those lessons have helped me to be a better version of myself and better to the world around me. I have the utmost faith in God and faith that I'm always on the right path. Believing that I'm on the right path makes it hard for negative emotions to hang around. So I use my emotions to motivate and inspire me. I use my emotions to provide me with the direction on which way I should go, but they don't get the final say as to what I should do or how I should do it. In other words, my decisions are based on logic and not emotion, with the exception of when I'm creating. Emotions are very important to guiding creative energy. Acceptance. I accept the way things are and deal with those things accordingly. It doesn't make sense to burn energy on wanting the impossible or being in my feelings because the situation is not the way I want it to be. I can only solve for how it is, not for how I want it to be or how I think it should be. If there's a way to change the situation so that it can be the way I want it to be, then I put in the work to make the change. If there's no way that the situation can be the way I want it to be or that I think it should be, then I let it go. The bottom line is that I deal with what is instead of what isn't. Control. I take control where I can. Where I don't have control, I simply let it go. I no longer allow myself to be damaged by toxic people, relationships, or situations. I distance myself from the people and things that I don't like and don't have to deal with. Toxic relationships cause short and long-term damage. As soon as I realize a situation is toxic or a person is toxic, I start distancing myself as soon as possible, and whenever possible, I do it without confrontation. There's no need for unnecessary confrontations or arguments. I only fight over what matters to me, and if you're toxic, you shouldn't matter to me, and therefore there's no need to burn extra energy on it by creating an argument or a confrontation. I've also learned to control what I think about. If I find my thoughts are focused on a situation that upsets me and it's a situation I don't have to deal with, then I think about something else. If I have to think about something else 100 times an hour, I will keep doing so until that one unwanted thought is no longer on my mind. If it's a situation that I have to deal with, then I'll do my best to deal with it when I'm not so emotional. For those situations that have fallen apart to the point to where there's no repairing it, I don't look for closure. I build it. I reflect on what happened, figure out where the blame fairly should be placed, acknowledge the lessons that were learned, and that at there's a point there's nothing else to be done. I move forward with my life. In other words, I don't look for an explanation from the other person as to why they did what they did. If they tell me anything that helps me to understand, then that's great. But I'm not putting any part of my life on hold or burn emotional or intellectual energy trying to figure out what happened from someone who more than likely won't be honest anyway. Like I said, I build closure. I don't find it. Here's something to keep in mind. Our thoughts are influenced by our emotions, and our emotions are a byproduct of our thoughts. It's a hell of a feedback loop. So if you learn to get a hold of your thoughts, then it becomes a lot easier to control your emotions. It does take a lot of work to be able to get control, but when you're finally able to consistently control your thoughts, life gets a whole lot easier. Controlling your thoughts means that you're much less a slave to your emotions. Just remember to be kind to yourself when reflecting back on situations that didn't turn out for the best. It is easy to look back on what happened and point out misstep after misstep because you have the whole picture to look back at now. However, remember that in the moment, you were making those decisions based on what you knew at the time. Now, if you can look back and say, I knew I was making a mistake, and you did it anyway, then you should kick yourself in the ass just a little bit. But in those cases, you did what you wanted to do. The lesson in situations where you knew you shouldn't do it, but you did it anyway, is to always trust your gut. That voice that guides you really is God putting you up on game. It is very important to listen. The next tenet is improve your diet. This is just not about what you put in your mouth. It's about the music you listen to, the content you watch, the content you read, the people you surround yourself with. We are learning machines that never stop learning, so what you expose yourself to does impact your mind, body, and spirit. It's fine to indulge in junk content and conversations, but make sure that you're getting more nutritious content than junk. Always remember that what you expose yourself to does leave an imprint on you. My friends who are successful spend the majority of their conversations talking about all the things that lead to personal, professional, and financial growth. The people in my life who have talents or have passion for a particular thing spend most of their conversations on the things that turn them on, and the result is that they are really good at what they do. The people I know who aren't doing so well in life spend the majority of their time conversing about things that really don't matter, and their lives reflect it. If you want better, you feed yourself better content, have better conversations, and spend your time on better pastimes. It's as simple as that. So the next tenet is be present. This is very important. I'm talking about living in the moment, working with the here and now. The past is important because our past experiences have shaped who we are today. The past is a teacher, and if we are good students, we don't repeat the same mistakes. But we do repeat the behaviors that brought us success. We also don't allow regret, guilt, or the desire to relive our past or change what we did back in the day to haunt us. In general, don't spend too much time living in the past. Quick visits are fun and great for the soul, but don't spend too much time there. The future should be considered because the things we do today will shape our future. Just keep in mind that we aren't promised tomorrow. So it is important to figure out a good balance between preparing for our potential future while enjoying the present. Being present is and should be the priority for all of us. The past is a world of ghosts, and the future is nothing but a shopping list waiting to be filled. The present is truly all we have, and we should be making the absolute most of it. So be present as often as possible. Now, one detail that I will share with you about my personal experience with depression is that when I was given a new prescription for my second go-around on antidepressants, I popped the pill as I descended the back stairwell of my doctor's office. Within seconds of swallowing that pill, the emotional heaviness that had been weighing me down for months began to fade away. I was really excited to begin to feel normal again, but that excitement was interrupted by the thought, there is no way that little pill you just took changed your body chemistry that quickly. See, I had done my research on depression. I understood how the chemistry worked. It was why the suicidal ideations that floated around in my head never grew beyond passing thoughts. The knowledge of the physical part of depression had kept me functioning, rational, and for the most part in control. My understanding made it easy for me to set aside the heaviness. From my research on depression, along with my past experience, I knew that it was impossible for a single half dose of the medication to set me right within 20 seconds of taking it. I was having a placebo moment. Actually, it was a 20-second placebo moment, and it was then that I understood that my mind was bigger, better, and stronger than the emotional part of myself that had been dragging me around on a leash all of my life. I understood that I probably didn't need the pills to set me right, but I did stay on them for the next 2 years. And during that time, I worked hard on me. When my prescription stopped being auto refilled, I weaned myself off the pills and I haven't looked back. Because of what I've learned, at this stage of my life, meds is not even a consideration when things get tough. I count my blessings that my particular case of depression was one that didn't require years of therapy and being on meds. I'm extremely thankful that I was fortunate enough to be able to learn how to think and operate in order to minimize my tendencies to go dark when life gets interesting. Now, when life gets interesting, I will go dark when I feel that it's necessary to do so, but it's on my terms. The time I spend feeling that way is limited, and I won't allow myself to fall deep into the pits of despair, pity, or allow my anxieties to call the shots. I respect the need to allow my emotions to exist. They're just not allowed to roam freely at the cost of the rest of me. I lean on those 5 tenets of living and thinking to keep me in the right emotional and mental light. Faith, acceptance, control, diet, and being present allow me to navigate life in a way that keeps me calm, balanced, and constantly in a position to evolve for the better. Now, when I'm faced with a situation that is upsetting to me, I ask myself the question, will this matter 5 years from now? In most cases, the answer is no. In the rare cases where the answer is yes, usually the result of that experience is actually what the beginnings of a better life for me. I was blessed enough to be able to work through the BS and find and learn the lessons and apply what I've learned as I moved on. So, let's talk about you. If you want better, then you have to do better. In order to do better, you have to think better. That means you have to be a better thinker. And in order to be a better thinker, you have to assume control of the thoughts, which in turn will help you have control over your emotions. Emotions should enhance your life in the same way seasoning enhances your meal. Typically, we don't enjoy overseasoned food, right? If you do enjoy overseasoned food, something is truly wrong with you. But I still love you. But anyway, before you can solve any problem, you have to understand what exactly the problem is, why it is a problem, and how did the problem come to be. When it comes to problems with how we think and how we feel, the only way that I know of solving them is by confronting the person in the mirror. When we have physical injuries, we don't hesitate to get rest, go to rehab, and pop pills. When it comes to problems with our emotions, we will definitely hesitate to meditate, go to therapy, and take meds if needed. And as a culture, we need to change our aversion to taking care of our mental health. During the period before I ended up going on antidepressants for the first time, I was struggling emotionally. Most of the days felt like I was dragging around an extra 200 pounds of sand. My thoughts were heavy and there was no joy to be seen or thought of except for when I went on my daily post-work bike ride. It was 11 miles of me feeling normal, and sometimes I even felt great. But I got to the point to where it got harder and harder to feel good from the ride, and eventually that bike ride was a part of the heaviness. The bike ride or any other activity that amped up my endorphins wasn't curing the illness. It was temporarily putting the symptoms at bay. It wasn't until I went to therapy for the second time to face my demons in my head that I began to improve. The pills retrained my body to understand what the proper level of happiness chemicals should be in my system so that I could feel normal without needing to take them in the future. So my journey dealing with depression took about 10 years, and I didn't beat it until I learned to invest in the cure. My cure was therapy, meds, and self-reflection. My method for keeping my depression in remission is prayer, meditation, the 5 tenets, and deciding to think outwardly instead of inwardly. I want to leave people in situations better off than how I found them. Basically, I don't focus on myself so much. I treat myself well, but I understand that life is much better when you love outwardly just as much as you love inwardly. When I was depressed, my focus was solely on me in an unhealthy way. Once I was able to stop focusing on me, focusing on all the things that weren't right with me, life got so much better. Most of us are dealing with our own demons. I shared my demon story with you and with the hope that it will help you take the major step towards committing to improving your mental and emotional well-being. We all are dealing with stress and trauma. How we are impacted by the stress and trauma and how we cope with them are different, which means that the only one size fits all solution that I can offer to you is that you start facing your demons. For one, start a journal and write down what happened regularly and how you felt about it. Learn how to meditate and make that a part of your routine. 5 to 10 minutes a day is all you need, and you can do it while working out or cleaning or doing anything else that doesn't require a lot of focus. Look into finding a therapist if you feel like you're really depressed. There are resources out there to help you with the cost, so get to Googling. Most people that I know that have found a therapist who was the right fit for them have had their lives changed dramatically for the better. I started this episode talking about the goal of being better. In order to build a better life, you have to make sure that you have the best tools available to you. And the most important tool you have is your mind. It doesn't matter what you do, what you learn, or who you do it with. If your mind isn't properly tuned up, building that better life is going to be hard. And even if you're able to reach your fullest potential, you probably won't be able to enjoy the success. Having a solid foundation to firmly plant your feet on is a key to being able to stand tall and handle the weight of your world. Your mind is the foundation to you're supporting your dreams. Make getting your mind right a priority and a key part of your plan for success. The stronger your mind, the easier it is to manage the ups and downs of life. Now, if you feel like you're struggling with depression, I do encourage you to ask for help. Look for mental support resources in your community, and don't be embarrassed or feel ashamed if you're struggling emotionally. It happens to the best of us. Put your pride aside and put in the work, and you'll be all right. Remember, if you want better, then you have to be able to do better. In order to do better, you have to be able to be a better thinker, which means being able to consistently make sound decisions. It is hard to make sound decisions when your emotions are screaming at you. So make taking care of your mental and emotional health an absolute priority in your life. Invest in your wellness, distance yourself from toxic people and situations, learn to trust your gut, and definitely remember to love yourself. This is your life, so do what you need to make the best of it. If you're happy and feeling accomplished, you will be better for the people around you. If life is going well for you, make sure that you check in on your strong friends. Share your strength and your blessings whenever you can. Do not be stingy. Just because life is good for you doesn't mean it's good for everyone else. So, as always, thank you for sharing your time with me. Stay tuned for the next episode. And in the meantime, you can follow me on Instagram at DJ Silk. Click on the bio and you'll find the link that leads you to the other content that I've created or am a part of. You'll find the link to my Mixcloud page, which is mixcloud.com/DJSilk12. My link to my Medium page, which is djsilk.medium.com. The links to the DCMK podcasts are there as well. And if you're not on the gram, you can go to linktr.ee/DJSilk and you'll find all the links I just mentioned. So until the next time, I am DJ Silk. This is the In Paradigm Shifting. Be well, be blessed, and be safe, all right?